Elite Facts presents
Spot the Difference number 9.
24.
Hey everybody, welcome back to a new edition of Spot the Difference. In this video, we'll be looking at 30 Spot the Difference puzzles. Feel free to pause at any time to get a better look. The two images will be shown side by side and they'll stay up temporarily, and then we'll move on to the answers. There are 5 differences in each puzzle. Good luck! 1 point for each correct answer, so keep a tally in your head or on a piece of paper. Let's begin. Can you spot all the differences? First, you can see the eye of the guy in the middle now looks like a Pokeball. You should probably go and see an eye surgeon about that. Next, you can see the paper at the bottom of the picture is missing the question mark. Who are you going to call? Call someone who won't forget the question mark. Next, you can see the thing in the bottom left of the picture now has a red eye. Okay, some eye surgeon is losing his job. Next, you can see the symbol of the mummy in the middle of the picture has his symbol upside down. And finally, you can see the highlights on the monster in the top right corner's highlights are shorter. Did you get them all? And don't hate me for not knowing their names, damn it.
23.
Next up, we have Patrick from SpongeBob looking devious as always. Can you spot all the differences? First, you can see that his eyebrows are more evened out now. Next, you can see that he's gone to a plastic surgeon and gotten himself a lower lip. Good for him. Next up, you can see that his belly button is now upside down. You can also see that the detail on the pineapple house next to him is now missing. And finally, you can see he's missing a spot on his right shoulder. Did you catch them all?
22.
Oh dear God, not this guy. Can you spot all the differences with this annoying tool? First off, you can see that he now has more of a fringe. Next, you can see that he has a much longer mustache. Next, you can see that his bow tie is now black rather than white. Next, you can see his jacket is much longer. And finally, you can see the Yakuza have claimed another victim and have taken one of his fingers. So, did you get them all? Can we get this guy off our screen now?
21.
Next up, we have a picture of a baby panda. Can you spot all the differences? First, you can see it's starting to go hyperactive because one of his eyes is dilated. Next, you can see his paw only has 3 toes. Next, you can see the shine detail on his nose is now missing. Next, you can see the branch it's chewing on is now missing. And finally, you can see there is far less grass detail on the floor below. Did you catch them all?
20.
Next up, we have a refreshing picture of Fanta beverages. Can you spot all the differences? First thing you'll notice is that the cap on the watermelon bottle is dark purple rather than green. Next, you can see the cap on the far right bottle is now orange instead of purple. Next, you can see that the bottle on the far left says berry now instead of raspberry. Next, you can see on the orange flavor, the picture of the orange has been replaced by a passion fruit. And finally, you can see the logo on the creaming soda picture is now missing the leaf. Did you catch them all? Well, excuse me, I'm going to go get a bottle of Tango.
19.
Next up, even though we're in June now, we have Jack Skellington from A Nightmare Before Christmas. Can you spot all the differences? First, you can see that his collar is now missing a spike. Next, you can see that he's lost the ability to breathe through his nose because he's got no nostrils. Not that it matters anyway, because he's dead already. Next, you can see one of the light on the tree is now glowing blue. You can also see the red bauble at the bottom of the picture is not as big as the original. And finally, you can see the tree is missing a blue light towards the top of the picture. Did you catch them all?
18.
I always knew cats would take over one day, and now they're hipsters. Can you spot all the differences? First difference worth noting is the cat on the left of the picture doesn't have glasses. You can also see that the same cat's ear is crooked. Next, you can see the cat on the right has a smaller mouth. Next, you can see there's a red check out of place on the left cat's shirt. And finally, you can see the cat on the right has an extra button on its shirt. Did you catch them all? Sorry about that.
17.
You probably shouldn't give a Valentine or a crush this card. If you're referencing Ninja Turtles, odds are you love pizza more than you love them. There's no shame in that. Anyway, can you find all the differences? First, you can see that a pepperoni is missing off the Pizza Heart. Next, you can see he's been seeing the dentist because he's got a full set of teeth. Next, you can see his belt buckle is a solid color. You can also see that the comma where pizza is now missing. And finally, you can see there is an extra bit of detail on the background. Did you catch them all that time?
16.
Next up, we have Ferb from Phineas and Ferb. Can you spot all the differences? First difference you'll notice is that the hammer is missing a small bit of detail. Next, you can see that he's missing a finger. You can also notice that a piece of the metal frame is also missing. Next, you can see his shirt now has 2 buttons. And finally, you can see that his ear detail is backwards. Did you spot them all?
15.
Once again, we return to a Nickelodeon classic with another fairly OddParents spot the difference picture. Can you find them all? First thing you can see is that the paper Timmy is holding only says list now. Next, you can see that the sentence and Oh Yeah cartoon is missing N. Next, you can see Cosmo is now missing his tie. You can also see that Wanda is missing her lipstick. And finally, you can see towards the left side of the screen, there are now 3 stars instead of 2. Did you catch them all?
14.
Next up, we have a childhood classic, the Smurfs. Can you spot them all? The first thing you'll likely notice is that the R in the Smurfs logo is missing a bit of detail in it. Next, you can see that Gargamel's nose is much larger than in the original picture. Next, you can see a bit of grass detail in the bottom right of the picture is now missing. Towards the left of the picture, you can see that Papa Smurf is wearing a white hat now. And finally, you can see the Smurf up front is missing the flower on his hat. Did you catch them all?
13.
And now we have a ton of flags from around the world. Can you spot all the differences? First, you can see that there are now 2 Turkish flags and no flags for Japan. Next, you can see the Belgian flag is discolored as it's green instead of yellow. Next, you can see 2 flags have swapped places. Next, you can see 1 flag has been flipped. And finally, you can see that 1 flag has grown drastically in size. Did you catch them all?
12.
Next up, oh God, not again. Is anyone else sick of politics? Anyway, can you spot all the differences with Trump? First, you can see an American flag in the background. Next, you can see the U in Trump is now upside down, much like America. Next, you can see that his eyes are open and staring into your soul. Next, the website at the top is missing the dot. And finally, 1 piece of confetti is red instead of white. Did you trump them all?
11.
Next, we have the good old Simpsons and its many cast characters. Can you find all the differences? First thing you'll see is the picture in the background is missing the clouds. Next, you can see Chief Wiggum's hair is now black. Next, you can see that the TV box has more ventilation now. Maybe they'll get a few more years out of that old thing. Next, you can see Mr. Smithers isn't watching TV, but is instead looking up. Maybe he's looking for Frank Grimes. And finally, Nelson has all his teeth. Did you spot them all?
10.
Oh God, why would anyone want a giant one of these things? It'll take more effort to solve. Anyway, can you spot them all? First, you can see that one of the red squares is now blue. You can also see the corner of the puzzle is now white instead of black. Next, you can see that there's more packaging straps on the floor. You can also see he's missing a foot. You might want to get that checked out. And finally, you can see there's another plant pot in the background. Did you catch them all?
9,
Oh man, Operation was such a great board game. Can you spot all the differences? First, you can see more lightning bolts where the buzzer is. Next, you can see the arrow where his wrist is has moved. Next, you can see that he doesn't have a broken heart, bloody hypochondriac. You can see the bread basket is also tilted on his stomach. And finally, it says funny one instead of funny bone. Did you spot all the differences?
8,
Is the Angry Birds fad dead yet? No? Okay, let's hop on the bandwagon then. Can you spot all the differences? First, you can see there's an extra bird in the background now. We'll be honest, we have no idea what it's from. Next, you can see that the red bird has decided to trim down his eyebrows. Next, you can see that the bird in the bottom left of the picture is missing his lower eyelids. Next, you can see the yellow bird's eyebrows have changed now. Now he just looks shifty. And finally, you can see that the white bird has more feathers on top of his head now. Did you catch them all?
7,
Next, we have a Yu-Gi-Oh picture. Can you spot them all? First, you can see on his arm, his wrist device is now glowing red instead of blue. Next, you can see on his left arm that he has 3 straps instead of 2. Next, you can see that his belt only says K instead of KC. Next, you can see he's missing a bit of detail on his coat. And finally, you can see that his foot is now much longer. Did you spot them all?
6,
Next up, we have the always classic comedy Friends. Can you spot all the differences? First, you can see that one of the shakes is missing a bit of detail in it. Oh God, where are Matthew Perry's eyebrows? Next, you can see that Lisa Kudrow doesn't have a straw. I hope everyone's okay with us using the actors' actual names. Next, you can see that Courtney Cox is missing her earrings. And finally, you can see the dot between D and S on the logo has changed color. Did you find them all?
5,
Holy crap, what has Benedict Cumberbatch been taking? We want some because he looks like he's having the time of his life. Can you spot all the differences? First difference you'll notice is that the bear's nose is smaller. Next, you can see that he's now missing his watch. Maybe the bear is mugging him. Next, you can see that he's missing his handkerchief in his lapel pocket. Next, you can see that there's a bit of detail missing in the set's background. And finally, you can see that even more of the set's background has changed. Did you spot all the differences?
4,
Next up, we have a Pixar classic, Toy Story. Can you spot all the differences? First difference you can see is that Buzz's wings have different detail than what we're used to. Next, you can see that Woody is missing a bit of detail on his vest. Not to mention his bandana is missing the knot on the back of his neck. Next, you can see that Buzz's light colors are in a different order. And finally, he's missing a screw detail on his leg. Did you spot them all?
3,
Next up, we have the critically acclaimed Nintendo 3DS game Mario Maker. Can you spot all the differences? First, you can see a cloud has been added to the screen. Next, you can see the game's graphics have been set to Super Mario World in the top left corner instead of Super Mario Brothers. Next, you can see that the arrow is now pointing left instead of right. Next, you can see the Goomba is now much larger. Must have had too many mushrooms. And finally, you can see that the menu up top has a different order. Did you spot all the differences?
2,
Next up, why are we getting bad flashbacks of Spider-Man 2 on PS2? Screw that kid who kept crying over his balloon. Anyway, here's a picture of Spider-Man in a car with a ton of balloons. Can you spot the differences? First thing you may notice is that his eyes are black instead of white. Next, you can see that he's missing his thumb. You can also see that a balloon in front of him has changed from yellow to red. Next, you can see that a balloon in the back of his car has changed from green to blue. And finally, you can see his door handle is missing the keyhole. Good luck getting out of that one, Spider-Man. If the Green Goblin just did that, he wouldn't have to worry about Spider-Man anymore.
1,
And finally, we're ending on a Pokemon Go screenshot. Can you spot all the differences? First thing you can see is that Bulbasaur is missing a bit of detail on his face. Next, you can see the Formula Racing sticker on the bottom is different. Next, you can see that there is another row of dashes on the stick on the back spoiler of the car. Next, you can see that the car has the number 6 on it instead of the number 5. And finally, you can see that a man has mysteriously disappeared in the background. Witchcraft! Well, that's the end of this edition of Spot the Difference. Once again, let us know how well you did in the comments below. Thanks for spotting by.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more elite facts.